Hey, it's Galfi and Galfette. Today we're going to talk about channel strip. It's a set of treatments that can be applied to audio, MIDI/instrument, group and effects tracks. I'll tell you about it right after the intro. If you like this video, feel free to add a like. It's always a great motivator for us to keep making videos. And if you find our videos interesting, you can also subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. To access the channel strip, click on the little E in a track's command block. This takes you to the track's properties. The channel strip is in the center and, of all the effects available, only the EQ is activated, but in a neutral, flat curve. You can change the order of the modules, and therefore their chaining, in two ways, either, in the center, by clicking on a module and dragging it, or, in the left-hand window, with the difference that you click on a module. Module that has several options, such as the compressor, the click will activate the compressor by default. If you click a second time and leave it clicked, you'll see that the modules turn green. This means that you can now change the position of the module. You can also choose to place the channel strip before or after the inserts by clicking on this little icon. By default, it's positioned after the inserts, but once I've clicked on the icon, the channel strip is now positioned before the inserts. As for inserts and before/after positioning, I refer you to the video dedicated to effects, inserts and sends. Of course, you'll find the link to this video in the description. Let's take a look at the channel strip effects. It's important to know that these effects can't be replaced by others. You can't, for example, add a delay or a reverb. I'm going to use a bass line for my tests. Here you have the equalizer. You can see the details of the EQ by clicking on this tab on the right. You can modify the frequency bands and their respective values. You can also add pre-gain, i.e. upstream of the EQ. If you want to reset the EQ values to 0, simply right-click on each number and select Clear EQ Band. If you want to bypass an effect, simply click on this little icon. The Effect tab then turns gray with a yellow stroke. You can also do this from a detailed window such as EQ, Compressor, or Limiter. Here you have the noise gate. It's an effect used to clean up the sound of breathing during vocals or the sound of rubbing on guitar strings, but it can also be used to isolate an event such as the snare or bass drum of a drum kit. I click on it to activate it, and you'll see that the Effect tab changes color. You can access presets here by clicking on the little cube icon. To deactivate a module, simply click on the little arrow here and select Not Loaded. Compressors are essentially used to unify sound dynamics. There are several types of compressor: standard, tube and vintage. The little E here takes you to a more detailed view. The fader on the right defines the threshold at which the compressor is activated. In the Tools section, you have two tools, the Desser and the Envelope Shaper. The Desser is used for vocals, to reduce the impact of consonants. This applies to sibilant consonants such as S or F. The Envelope Shaper is used to play on the attack and release of the sound. Here, saturation doesn't go as far as complete distortion, but adds warmth or grain to the sound. You have 3 types of saturation. I advise you to try them out and choose the one that suits you best. Finally, there are the limiters. Here again, there are 3, the brick wall limiter, the maximizer, and the standard limiter. A limiter simply cuts the audio more or less sharply when it exceeds a threshold defined by the threshold here. The maximizer also boosts the sound. These tools are useful for improving the sound of audio parts in relatively subtle ways. Of course, you don't have to push them all the way to get an effective result. If you have questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week for another Cubase video.